Members of the House and the Senate, this joint session will come to order, and the clerk will read a resolution.
House Resolution 569 by Representative Burns, the 159th. A resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purpose of hearing a message from the governor, inviting the justices of the Supreme Court and the judges of the Court of Appeals to be present at the joint session and for other purposes.
It's my honor at this time to recognize some distinguished guests that are with us today, beginning with our constitutional officers for the state of Georgia. All the constitutional officers that are here, please stand or raise your hand and let us honor you. Members of the Consular Corps, let's give them a hand. A truly great partner of mine, and has been since the beginning of me having this position, the Speaker Pro Tem of this House, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. My friend who we raised upright here in this chamber, and he has served with great distinction in the Senate as the Lieutenant Governor, and is an individual who I know follows that which he believes to be right. And that is very rare today in political life. Please welcome the Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan. The distinguished President Pro Tem of the State Senate, Butch Miller. A lady who has served alongside her husband with great distinction and has been a real credit to this state. We're going to miss very, very much the First Lady of the Senate, Brooke Duncan. I've got a long introduction for this next one here, but I'll just say she is about the greatest thing I've ever known. First Lady of the House, Cherie Ralston. A truly tireless advocate for working on some very important causes in our state, and I know has been front and center on issues like human trafficking and so many other important initiatives that I know are important to the governor, important to the entire state, and we appreciate very, very much her service and that of the entire family. Let's give a big hand to the First Lady of Georgia and the Kemp family. It is now my true honor to introduce an individual that I've had the pleasure of working with since he came into office and for years before. And I can tell you that he has had some challenging times this term. I can also tell you that he's mastered those challenges, whether it was COVID, the other little issues that we've had to deal with from within and without the state, I might add. He has maintained great class and dignity and has kept focused on moving Georgia ahead regardless of how much noise there was, how much chatter, or all the distractions. And I'm very proud of the job he's done. I'm proud that he is our governor and look forward to his continued service. Please welcome to the podium Georgia's 83rd governor, Brian Kemp.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you all very much. I'm still hung up on what the speaker said about Marty and the girls. Lieutenant Governor Duncan, Speaker Ralston, President Pro Tem Miller, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, members of the General Assembly, members of the Judiciary, and my fellow Georgians. 3 years ago, when I stood before this body and the people of our state for the first time as your governor, I said, I know there will be adversity, those who want to tear us down. There will be difficult days and dark nights, but together we will overcome. Like Coach Henderson said, it can be done. Standing before all of you today in the final year of my first term in office, I didn't know then how true these words would become. But just like I saw all those years ago under the Friday night lights at Clark Central High School, legendary football coach Billy Henderson was right again. Despite the divisive politics, the pandemic, the unforeseen challenges, the tough obstacles that stood in our way, we pulled together and lent a helping hand to our fellow Georgians and proved it could be done. As Psalm 16:8 says, I've set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand, and I shall not be shaken. Over the last 3 years, we built Georgia's house on a firm foundation. The concrete, the frame, and the roof withstood the storms, and we emerged resilient. We boldly seized the opportunity to plant seeds for the future in good soil, so a bountiful harvest would bring our state brighter, more prosperous days ahead. Thanks to that approach and our work together, our state has celebrated unprecedented success. By keeping our state open for business, bringing record levels of jobs and investment, and fighting to put hard working Georgians first, we now have the opportunity to build a safer, stronger Georgia for all who call the Peach State home. In September of 2018, I unveiled my plan to raise teacher pay in our state by $5,000. At that time, Georgia ranked 23rd in the country in annual salary for our educators. And a statewide survey showed that 44% of hardworking Georgians leading our classrooms would leave the profession within the first 5 years. Today, 3 years after we came together and passed a $3,000 down payment on that promise, educators and students face a challenging future. Parents, teachers, and administrators across our state are doing their best to help students overcome learning loss due to the pandemic. Students from all walks of life are confronted with mental health struggles. Teachers are asking are asked to do more and more every year. And the need for a world-class K through 12 education to prepare our children for the ever-changing workforce has never been greater. Throughout my first term, I've had the honor of attending teacher listening sessions and regular meetings with groups of superintendents and school board members from across the state. In those discussions, I've got to know and also understand the struggles, the successes, and the needs of different school districts in every corner of Georgia. The hard-working Georgians in our schools, the school staff, administrators, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and teachers all do a terrific job of keeping our kids safe and investing in their futures. To support their heroic efforts day in and day out, I believe that we as state leaders must continue to do everything we can to ensure they have the resources necessary to fulfill their mission and prepare the next generation of leaders for successful lives and careers. That's why my fiscal 2023 budget proposal will include the final installment of $2,000 to finish out the largest pay raise in state history, a total of $5,000 since 2019. This $2,000 raise will impact K through 12 teachers, assistant teachers, and pre-K teachers, who I think we can all agree have gone above and beyond for their students throughout the pandemic. In addition, my amended fiscal year 2022 budget will recommend a one-time pay supplement of $2,000 for full-time state-funded instructional staff, school support staff, and school administration, and a $1,000 one-time supplement for school bus drivers, nurses, nutrition workers, and part-time employees. Let's all take a moment to thank them for all that they have done for our students and our state. Additionally, a priority for conservative leaders under the Joel Dome, including myself for many years, has been to appropriately fund the state school funding formula. These dollars are sent directly to schools in every corner of Georgia to hire more teachers, reduce class size, and ensure every child receives a quality education. My fiscal year 2023 budget proposal will recommend adding $425 million to fully fund our schools and completely restore all austerity cuts to education funding in our state that were made during the pandemic. This key priority will collectively provide an additional $1.4 billion in direct funding to our K through 12 schools and invest more per K through 12 student than ever before. When it comes to education in our state, it's a lot more than just money and resources. As the parents of 3 daughters, one of who is a public school teacher, Marty and I are also concerned about what we're seeing across the country. From the classroom to the ball field, there are those who want to divide our kids along political lines, push partisan agendas, and indoctrinate students from all walks of life. This is wrong, it's dangerous, and as long as I'm governor, it will not take root in our state. That's why I'm looking forward to working with the members of the General Assembly this legislative session to protect our students from divisive ideologies like critical race theory that pits kids against each other. I also look forward to working with the House and the Senate to pass and sign a parental bill of rights in our education system and other pieces of legislation that I strongly support to ensure fairness in school sports and address obscene materials online and in our school libraries. I believe by working together, this legislative session will be a historic one for education in our state, because building a safer, stronger Georgia starts with putting students and parents first. During my campaign for governor, I told Georgians I would focus on bringing an innovative solution to our many health care challenges, not just to expand a one-size-fits-all broken government program. That's why I worked alongside members of this body to craft Georgia-centric solutions through the Patients First Act that would increase access to coverage for our most vulnerable, while also lowering costs for millions of Georgians. Today, we're seeing the benefits of that plan across the state. When I signed the bipartisan Patients First Act in 2019, Georgia had only 4 health insurance carriers offering plans in the individual market. Today, we've nearly tripled that number, with 11 carriers offering plans for 2022. In 2019, only 26% of Georgia counties had more than one carrier offering insurance on the individual market. Now, in 2022, 98% of all counties have more than one carrier, which means expanded choice and lowered costs for hardworking Georgians. Overall, the state's $139 million investment in Georgia Access, included in my budget proposal this year, has helped reduce premiums by a statewide average of 12%. That's $850 in annual savings for Georgians on the marketplace today. And in rural counties, where premium prices were highest, choices in coverage were few, and options for care were limited, the reinsurance program has contributed to premium reductions from 25% to over 30% in some counties. For a 50-year-old Georgian buying a silver plan on the marketplace, that translates into annual savings from $2,500 to over $4,300 a year. I'd like to thank Insurance Commissioner John King for his work alongside my office to implement these reforms and deliver results for Georgia families. And while the Biden administration plays politics, in Georgia, we're making health care more affordable for millions of our citizens. As we lower insurance premiums, it's also vital that we have more doctors for Georgia to see for care. Physicians and nurses are in short supply across the country, but especially in rural Georgia. That's why my budget proposal includes an initial $1 million for the University System of Georgia to expand nursing programs up to 500 students annually over 5 years, and funding for our technical college system to grow their partnership with Allied Health to serve up to 700 additional students annually. My proposal will also invest $2.5 million for 136 residency slots and allocate $1 million to Mercer University to address rural physician shortages. With these key investments, we hope to add 1,300 additional healthcare practitioners in our state. Before I go on, let's pause and take a moment to thank all of our healthcare heroes in Georgia for their tireless dedication and hard work over these last 2 years. In fiscal year 2021, my office worked alongside the members of the House on an important priority of theirs to expand Medicaid coverage for new mothers to 6 months. Building on that success, my budget proposal includes a priority of members of the Senate to extend that coverage to a full year, to ensure these new moms are able to receive medical care at a critical time for their health and their long-term well-being. Thank you. And to continue Georgia's protection and celebration of life at all stages, I believe it's vitally important that we continue to work together to strengthen our state's foster care and adoption systems. My budget proposal will include nearly $28 million to allocate a 10% provider rate increase for all foster parents, relative caregivers, child caring institutions, and child placing agencies. This has been one of the most rewarding issues my office has tackled with members of both chambers. And I want to take a moment and thank the members here today and those who are no longer serving for their bipartisan efforts to put Georgia's children first. Thank you all very much. To build a safer, stronger Georgia, we must ensure every Georgian feels safe and secure in their communities. As I announced last week, I believe that starts with fully recognizing the constitutional rights granted to law-abiding Georgians in our founding documents. And I look forward to supporting constitutional carry legislation this session. Together, we made wise investments in public safety over the last 3 years. By creating the Anti-Gang Task Force within the GBI, passing bipartisan human trafficking legislation to hold criminals accountable and support victims, and funding the Crime Suppression Unit, we have shown our state's commitment to reducing crime and ridding our streets of gangs. The Anti-Gang Task Force in particular has been hard at work, and I'm very proud of the brave men and women of the GBI and all they have accomplished under the leadership of Director Vic Reynolds. But in too many jurisdictions across our state, soft on crime local governments and prosecutors have been unwilling to join the fight to rid their communities of these criminal networks. With many urban and some rural counties facing alarming levels of violent crime, we have the responsibility to act. To provide additional assistance for GBI's efforts to dismantle criminal street gangs, my budget proposal will include funding for a new anti-gang unit in the Attorney General's office, which will allow Attorney General Carr to direct some more resources in prosecuting gangs statewide. And my office will also be supporting enabling legislation that gives the Attorney General the authority to partner with the GBI and local law enforcement officials in investigating and prosecuting these dangerous criminals. To streamline case backlogs due to the COVID-19 pandemic and ensure prosecutions can obtain evidence as quickly as possible, my proposals will recommend over $7 million to upgrade GBI crime lab equipment, begin improvements to GBI headquarters, and provide an additional 32 staff in the crime lab and medical examiner's office to address their increased volume. This investment follows $110 million in federal funds that my office allocated to the judicial system back in October of this year to swiftly address delayed cases. Justice delayed is justice denied, and we will provide every resource necessary to ensure the courts and prosecutors have the information that they need, because safer communities lead to stronger communities, and together I know we can build on our significant progress over the last 3 years. On the front lines of our mission to build a safer, stronger Georgia is the Department of Public Safety and our brave men and women in blue and gray. One of the greatest honors of holding this office is seeing these heroes work each and every day to protect our communities and patrol our roadways. From ensuring peaceful protesters were kept safe and restoring order to the capital city in the summer of 2020, to hunkering down through a global pandemic and serving as the tip of the spear in our crime suppression efforts here in Atlanta, the department went above and beyond the call of duty every time. To bolster their critically important efforts, my budget proposal will include $3 million to support an additional trooper school class of 75 cadets this coming year. I'd like to thank Colonel Wright and his team for all that they continue to do for our state. I think most of you in this chamber would agree. It has never been harder to wear the uniform. Unfortunately, in the face of some local government and activist opposition to law enforcement across the country, I believe some hard-working Georgians may be hesitant to enter the workforce wearing blue. To ensure we recruit Georgia's finest to protect our communities, my office has asked Commissioner Greg Dozier of the Technical College System of Georgia to add law enforcement and criminal justice degrees to our high-demand career initiatives. This aims to provide a free tuition to over 1,000 Georgians looking to obtain those degrees at our technical colleges. As you all know, at the end of last year, I was proud to join many of you in allocating a $1,000 bonus to our law enforcement and first responders across the state. As my office released last week, I'm also proud to say that my budget proposal will include a $5,000 raise for state law enforcement and other state employees. These brave men and women have been on the front lines of a truly unprecedented time in our state's history, from civil unrest to a global pandemic, and we could not be more appreciative of all that they do to keep our families and our communities safe. And I want everyone to know, as long as I'm governor, I will always back the blue. I hope you all again will help me recognize all these hard-working men and women across our state for their efforts. No issue to improve the safety and well-being of Georgians has had more bipartisan support than the top priority of our First Lady. Would you all join me in thanking Marty, the girls, and the Grace Commission for their great work to end human trafficking in our state? Under Marty's leadership, alongside co-chair Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones and GBI Director Reynolds, the Grace Commission has changed the conversation around human trafficking by reminding Georgians that men and women trapped in this evil industry need our help and our compassion, not another blind eye turn. With the strong support of the members of the General Assembly and state law enforcement, including Attorney General Chris Carr, they have championed reforms that now give survivors a fighting chance, a place to shelter, and a path back to the life they wish to lead. The Grace Commission has also pushed for tougher penalties on those who break our laws and enslave others into a life in the shadows. I'd like to thank every member, Republican and Democrat, for their votes in support of these new laws. However, our work here is not yet finished. Unfortunately, many criminals making their living destroying the lives of others are able to quickly get back out onto the streets and begin preying upon young women and men within hours of their initial arrest. That's why our First Lady and the Grace Commission will be bringing forward legislation to add human trafficking to the list of serious violent and sexual offenses that require a Superior Court judge to grant bail. Making these common sense bipartisan reforms to our criminal justice system to protect our most vulnerable is yet another way we can work together to build a safer, stronger state for generations to come. Nearly 2 years after the first case of COVID-19 was detected in Georgia, millions are vaccinated, and our economy is roaring back faster and stronger than other states across the country. In fact, the Peach State is leading the nation in economic recovery because Georgia protected both lives and livelihoods. Our best and most prosperous days are ahead. Our unemployment rate, thank you. Our unemployment rate is at record lows, outpacing most of the country, including our fellow states in the Southeast. Jobs and investment numbers are through the roof. Companies from around the world have Georgia on their minds. Small businesses are bouncing back, and we just celebrated the largest single economic development project in state history. These achievements did not happen by accident. Georgia is on the move because we chose freedom, over government shutdowns. We trusted our citizens to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. We continue to fight unconstitutional federal mandates that force hardworking Georgians to choose between their livelihoods or a COVID vaccine. We stood up for our job creators and their employees and ignored the partisan attacks from the left, the national media, and those that seek to divide us for financial or political gain. We made the tough decisions because they were the right ones. We put hard-working Georgians and their families first because that's what we all were elected to do. Nearly 5 years ago, when I announced my campaign for governor, I made this promise, that I would run on an agenda that would put them first, ahead of the status quo. I would tell voters what I wanted to do as their governor, and if they chose me and my family to serve them for 4 years, we would go to work for them every day and do exactly that. Marty, the girls, and I are deeply honored by the trust a record number of Georgians placed in us back in November of 2018. With the Lord before us, we set out to do the job that you all hired us to do. And whether you voted for me or not, I have fought hard to live up to the commitments that I made on the campaign trail and ultimately do the right thing, even when no one was watching. The bold conservative agenda I've outlined over the last few days prioritizes education, health care, and public safety. It invests historic levels of resources in our students and educators, keeps politics out of the classroom, and ensures parents have the final say in their kids' education. It reduces the cost of health insurance for Georgia families, recruits 1,300 new nurses and doctors into communities where they're needed the most, and gives new mothers expanded access to medical care. It incentivizes more Georgians to enter a career in law enforcement, redoubles our efforts to dismantle violent gangs and combat human trafficking, and strengthens Georgians' constitutional rights to protect themselves and their families. It turns promises made into promises kept. The plan for a safer, stronger Georgia puts hardworking Georgians first and ensures our state will continue to be the best place to live, work, and raise a family for generations to come. Over the last 3 years, we've shown what this team can accomplish, even when enormous obstacles have stood in our way. By working together throughout this legislative session, I know it can be done again. So thank you. May God continue to bless you and bless this great state that we are honored to live, work, and raise our families in. Thank you very much.